Welcome to another episode of This Week on Disney YouTube. Today, we got Jared from Capture the Magic and Mr. Theme Park Conductor. We are reacting to two videos, one about Disney adults, the other is from Jack from DSNY, all about Villains Land. Theme Park Conductor, Jared in the house, up next on OG. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of This Week on Disney YouTube. We got some great videos lined up today. Before we dive into our videos, I got Jared from Capture the Magic. How you doing today, Jared?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling much better. I'm glad we're doing this today because I had no voice and my nose was all stopped up all weekend. But I'm better. I'm on the mend and I'm ready to react to some videos. But you can find me at Cap the Magic, and then if anybody's looking for East Coast theme park information about trips and vacations, you can go check out the CTM podcast on here as well with my wife and I, where we review things. We did a Mardi Gras preview for Universal Orlando, so everybody's looking to go there. You can go check that over there as well.
There it is. And in the description, I do have Jared's merch store. A lot of cool, like nerdy, theme park and video game t-shirts. Make sure you check it out. Yep, right there. There you go. And if you use promo code OGVD5, you get 10% off your purchase. Yes, Mr. Choo is back. He's got Boba Fett and Bowser behind him like usual. How you doing, Conductor?
I'm doing well. Like OG mentioned, I have both my co-hosts behind me and my wonderful guests, Jared and Orange Grove 55. But you can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 with his wild, wicked hair. We have sometimes Jared from Capture the Magic, as he described himself, our East Coast correspondent, everything theme parks out there, and so many others as we break down Universal and Disney news. We speculate, we talk rumors. The chat interacts with us. We interact with the chat. It's such a great time.
There he is. All right, gentlemen, let's dive right in. Our first video of the day is from the Disney Food Blog Guide. This is on YouTube. Why everyone hates Disney adults. Now, this is fascinating. This conversation is kind of like this, kind of almost like an evergreen conversation. And this has been something that a lot of fans and people outside of our fandom have debated and talked about for a real long time. Now, Jared, real quick, before we dive into the video, it is kind of interesting, the name, though, because even the name implies, for example, there's not universal adults.
Right. That's true.
So the name kind of implies Disney's for kids. What are you guys doing? Even the name is a little bit in a way kind of derogatory, but I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, am I off base for that, or is it kind of?
No, it's definitely used that way. Especially when you get when you're in the theme park stuff. For instance, I don't consider myself a Disney adult. I view myself more as somebody who enjoys theme parks, but I don't make it like my personality. And I think that's maybe where I would make the distinction. Yeah, is it's adults who everything about them is Disney. And I think that's where you get a lot. Every once in a while you'll get Matt Walsh's of the world and people reacting to Disney adults and things. So it becomes fodder for normie crowd, I think, of just looking in and what is this? But it's definitely evergreen. I mean, it's been around ever since I've been around theme parks. It's been a topic one way or the other. It does seem to pop up every few months about something Disney adults do.
Yeah, and I agree with you too on that. I don't consider myself really a Disney adult. I mean, I don't rock head to toe Disney all the time. I'm not rocking the ears when I'm at the parks and the crazy stuff. I'm kind of low key about it. I just like the parks. I like the movies, and yeah, you and I are very similar with that, Jared. Theme Park Conductor, what are your thoughts? Disney adults, what's your feeling on them overall before we dive into the video?
My overall thought, one day they could behave themselves, the next day they can't behave themselves. So what can I say?
Well, there you go.
Kind of
All
like
right.
people at Costco, right? They just sometimes they behave themselves, and sometimes they just stop in the middle of aisles and just clog up everything.
Pretty much.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. Everyone's in that bidet aisle. You know, that's the problem.
That's where the high traffic is.
All right, here we go, guys. Let's rock and roll.
If you clicked on this video, you're either a Disney adult, you know a Disney adult, or you can't look away from the train wreck that is Disney adults. Ready for the roller coaster? Welcome to my channel. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog, and it's time to address a pretty divisive topic that you may have heard of, and might even have a strong opinion about: Disney adults. According to the internet, they're self-absorbed, indulgent grown-ups who are obsessive about Disney, which is weird, and refuse to face reality, which is just sad, choosing instead to keep throwing their money at a corporate entity that caters to children. Anyway, I wrote a book about all of this, and you can buy it right now if you so desire. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Waterstones, wherever. And I'd be honored if you would buy it because I spent a bajillion hours on it, and I think it's fascinating. But in the meantime, here's a little preview for you. Who are Disney adults? Why does everyone hate us? And one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, does Disney even know we're here? So I've been doing a lot of press for the book the last few months, and this is always the first question from every interviewer. What is a Disney adult? Now, if you Google this, you're going to get some hilariously offensive Urban Dictionary definitions and some super visceral article headlines. But nobody's really defined the subculture. While everyone seems to have an opinion about this subculture, they're actually much more diverse than the viral Reddit threads would lead you to believe. While some Disney adults are more outspoken, crying for the camera when they see Cinderella Castle, wearing Disney-inspired tees on the daily, and decorating their houses solely with Mickey Mouse Jim Shore figurines and 50 pairs of Mickey ears tacked to the wall, others might be a little more closeted. There are a lot of us, and we're not all social media influencers.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were just talking about this, where there is definitely like different tiers of this fandom, where it's like you know, I don't think the three of us are really like crying when we see Goofy or something like this. That's not what we do. We appreciate we appreciate these parks, but we're not like, I don't know what you want to call that, but overly over the top with it, right? Go ahead, Jared.
Well, I think, and I agree, I think there are like subsections of what you would call that subculture. Because I would say, like, my wife, for instance, has been going to Disney parks her whole life. Like, she loves going to the parks, but she also is very able to sit there like and look at the flaws and voice an opinion, not liking something or other, and also enjoying like Universal and other things as well. And then I think a lot of the people that this gets centered around are the people that, like at social media, like you got the camera on on yourself and you're crying at the sight of the castle, and it's like you could never say that Disney does anything wrong. And I think that's where a lot of it gets pointed at, but I think that is a subset of what you would call a Disney adult in that way. Like there's a lot, like my wife has kids, we're married, but you have people that I think are in a more obsessive range. I think is probably where most of like the internet's ire goes toward, or like those people.
100%. I mean, even in our content creator space, you have someone like Hey Bricky, who I wouldn't call Hey Bricky a Disney adult, because he appreciates the parks, the architecture. He's not, overly over the top with stuff. He just appreciates the product, and he discusses it and analyzes it much like we do. On the flip side, there are creators that, it's much different. It's like every merch drop, they're grabbing the new thing, and it's every Loungefly, yeah, technically they're both Disney fans, but it's kind of done from a different angle. And but what say you, Conductor? What are your thoughts on that, brother?
So I agree with what she's saying. There is different tier levels of a Disney adult. Like you mentioned, there's some that are over obsessive. There's some that are just the right amount. And then there's some that, just go into the park like yourself, OG, and just vibe out and just enjoy the atmosphere. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but us as content creators, we kind of, when we're on location, we try to capture as much as we can, to provide a voice and a picture for maybe that family of 4 that can't afford to go, that still wants to see what's happening in the parks. That's where I see us in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well said. Well said. And here's the other thing too. And I do believe, as much as I do feel like some of the like extreme examples of that Disney adult thing, it's not my thing, but they do have a right to do this, you know, if they want to be all in, if their entire personality is their annual pass and this is all they love, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you have to expect people from the outside to look at that and go, yeah, it's kind of strange, right? Like, I think if you're a Disney adult and you're that level of fan, I think that it's kind of unrealistic to not expect other people that aren't on that same page to not question it. You know what I'm saying? So while Disney adults have that right to do this, I think people also have the right to be like, yeah, that's weird. You know what I'm saying, Jared?
Yeah, well, and I think you see this too, in like usually like sports. Like there are fans, and I guess I would put maybe that category of people that like not being objective. Like you have sports fans that are just like, you walk into their home and you're like, oh my gosh, like clearly they're a Patriots fan because all they have is like everything on the wall. And it's interesting because it's like I think you get a lot of the Disney crowd, not as much maybe anymore, but it's where everything is just about the like going to the parks and like having that like I honestly think it's probably like a dopamine thing, like getting the hit from going to the parks and like wanting to go back again and again. I would probably say it's not an objective group of people. And I think as a content creator, like there's audiences for anybody, but myself, like I think being more objective and looking at, you know, if something's good, if it's bad, like being willing to say that. I think a lot of people would probably say the type of Disney adults that people typically talk about are the ones that never would criticize. I guess.
Exactly.
And I would also say, if AJ, she asked, is Disney even aware of them? Oh, they're very aware of the Disney adult. Like,
Yes.
very, very aware of the Disney adult.
Oh yeah, they have been honestly kind of catering to the Disney adult for many years now. I mean, they know that it's very lucrative because Disney can, like you were saying, there's not with a lot of Disney adults. I don't want to say all because people get upset, you know, but like with a lot of like the extreme cases of that Disney adult thing, like they don't really question the company, or if they even if they do, they still get the stuff. So Disney's aware of that. They know, yeah, you know, they're gonna buy it anyway. You know, we'll just churn this stuff out. So yeah, Disney's aware, and Disney loves it. They also
100%, yeah.
Yeah, they love it.
Others might be a little more closeted. There are a lot of us, and we're not all social media influencers. But in my research, I settled on this broad definition for Disney adults. These are people who are intentional about interfacing with Disney products and experiences. They willingly choose Disney regularly. See? Easy. Disney adults don't have to be millennials. They don't have.
And see, that's the thing. Choose Disney, regularly choose Disney, right? In my opinion, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I think where it does become an issue is when people regularly choose Disney, but they're closed off and they're closed-minded towards other things.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's healthy. And again, I'm not telling anyone how to live. I'm just giving my opinion. But like, I think it's healthy to, okay, I love Disney, but you know what? I want to try Legoland. You know, it's something a little different. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's okay. You know, it's or like, you know, hey, I like Disney cruises, but hey, let's try Princess Cruises this time or some. I think it's healthy to have that open mind. There's nothing wrong with regularly choosing Disney, but you also don't want to be closed off to the rest of the world, in my opinion. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I agree. I think you see it too, where people will talk about, you know, a lot more people are going to Universal now to check out Universal, and you'll see some people being like, "Oh, I went to the Badlands or something." I'm like, it's a theme park. Like, just, you know, like, I don't know. It's almost like this Disney loyalty test that some people have, and it's interesting. I do feel like there's less and less of, like, say, the very narrow, like, only go to Disney crowd, because I would say, like, our podcast started as just Disney World. Yeah. And even a lot of those people that would openly say that they're Disney adults are really starting to venture into like Universal and other things as well. So I don't feel like it's as maybe as intense as it once was. I feel like maybe the intensity of that was like 2019 era. But it's obviously still there to some degree.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. And even like with animation and stuff, right? Like if like I'm an animation fan. I like animation a lot. I mean, that's what got me into all this stuff really when I was a kid. But I think you do yourself a disservice when you only watch Disney animation, right? Like there's a lot of great anime out there. There's a lot of great Warner Brothers and, Universal stuff out there. Like I love the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought that was fantastic. Like why rob yourself of something potentially pretty cool? Like
Yeah.
for what? Like, and Disney, you're right. There's that loyalty thing, and like Disney doesn't care. Like you're not going to win any brownie points with Disney. They don't really care.
Oh, no.
All you're doing is hurting yourself. You know what I'm saying? But what say you, conductor? You're a fair conductor. You go to Universal a lot, and you dabble in other things. What's your take on this?
So first of all, I'm going to say that, it is a good thing to be, open-minded, first of all. Second of all, it's healthy to explore different options. It's not always healthy to focus in on one thing. And again, I state as content creators, sometimes just covering one thing, one park, one company is not enough, especially in our content space. Now, when we just mentioned about, and Jared brought it up about Disney adults not criticizing the company, and then you look at media events for Disney, it's always the same influencers, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But you notice that these influencers, most of the time, if not all the time, never criticize Disney at all. And that's what Disney eats up. So that's why they keep getting invited to media events. And I'm not saying that, it's a healthy thing to sit there and badmouth everything you see. But again, someone in our space, that covers the parks, I'm not going to sugarcoat something that I know is bad.
Right. And
Yeah.
here's the thing with that. I watch a gentleman by the name of John Campia, who I love. I love John Campia. I think he's hilarious. But he does more like film size stuff, right? And John Campia sort of addressed this a few years ago. And he said, when it comes to the media list with Disney, and now John has been very critical, very vocal about his critiques. I mean, he just did a rant about the Mando and Grogu trailer just like a day or two ago, but he's very critical. And he said, look, a lot of people think that I can't go to these premieres if I'm not going to just basically just give every Disney movie a good review and this, that, and the other. And there is that kind of misconception. And that's what John was saying. And I do agree with him because I do have friends who are on that media list who do openly criticize and they still get invited back. Right. I think a lot of the censoring that goes on when it comes to like content creators, I think a lot of that is kind of self-imposed because they feel like that's what Disney wants to hear. But I don't think that's necessarily what Disney wants to hear. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, obviously within reason. I mean, if you're out there like going like crazy, like negative and like, it's like borderline offensive or like you're really trashing the company, then maybe that's a different conversation. But if you say, hey, you know what? Tiana's wasn't for me, or hey, you know what? I didn't really like, Fantastic Four. I don't think they're going to take you off the media list. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I stand with it. But what say you, Jared, about media list and all that stuff?
No, I agree. I think a lot of it is probably self-censored because a lot of people, I mean, obviously the goal of many content creators is to get on media lists, which for me, it's not like I probably will never be on them, which I'm totally fine with. So it's not something I necessarily have experience with, but I think a lot of people worry, okay, I want to get invited to these things. If I do say something critical, I may not get invited again. And so it may not be something directly from Disney. Although I feel like Disney has chilled out on that because I think there was a period of time, you remember that Los Angeles Times thing where they were like, they barred them from a couple of movie premieres because they had some critical words. Like they've had a history of it to a degree, but I do feel like it's loosened up a bit the past like 3 or 4 years. And I am kind of curious under tomorrow, like if that changes at all. But yeah, I think most of it though probably is self-imposed because there are, like you said, there are some creators that will be critical, but they're not like, every single video is like Disney's going bankrupt this week and stuff like that. Like, obviously, like, you know, if I'm a business, I'm not going to have somebody coming to my media list that hates my company. So, you know, I get that too.
Yeah, 100%. It's all within reason. You know, it depends on how you present the critiques, you know, like anything else. And I think if you present it in a way where, look, you know, this wasn't for me, it didn't work for me, I see nothing wrong with that. But if it's like, yeah, you know, F the mouse house, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. It's like, I guess you would say it's like, is it in good faith?
Yes.
You're like, your critiques are like, you know, genuinely just critiquing the thing, or just basically just, I call it spam hating. Just everything's a hate, no matter what it is. Like, I think that's a different category.
100%. And the other thing too is I wouldn't be surprised if you mentioned Josh D'Amaro. Josh D'Amaro is kind of a man of the people. He likes to mingle, you know what I'm saying? He's met a lot of content creators, you know. I mean, when he got promoted, everybody had a picture with Josh. They were all posting him on social media.
Yep.
I'm very curious, Jared, now that you brought that up, what kind of changes happens with this end of it? Is Disney going to welcome more people into their fold? Very curious. That's I don't know, possibility.
I could see a scenario where they're a little bit more open to criticism. I think that's something that Disney has been criticized about, is anybody that kind of has had criticisms that maybe there is some sort of, you know, not reaction, but just sort of like not wanting to hear it. Right. I think Josh potentially, we'll see, but he might be one that's willing to hear that more, because if you do want to make changes, if you do want to listen to the fan base, you do need to listen to the things that people say, hey, like Galaxy's Edge, like the Star Wars music, and then they made that change in Disneyland. Like, that's obviously listening to people that had the critiques about that land and trying to, you know, do something about it.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. Absolutely.
Have to be childless. They don't even have to like Disney movies or theme parks. There are Disney adults who align toward merchandise, those who love the music, those who focus more on Disney history. And yes, there are Disney adults like me who are obsessed with Disney World, but we're all different and we all fit the definition. So if we're all different, how do you know if you're looking at a Disney adult? So many of us won't cop to the moniker. Some Disney adults show their true colors outwardly. They've decorated their cube at work with their Disney Parks calendar and a bunch of PhotoPass photos from their recent rides on Tower of Terror. Maybe they have their Disney tree at Christmas. But like I mentioned before, Disney adults can be cloaked, y'all, afraid to be marked as someone who's obsessed. Or maybe they're fine with the obsessed title. They just don't want it to be their only defining personality trait when they're at work or driving.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing too. It's not even so much about censoring yourself, right? Like, you want to be who you are. You want to be true to who you are. And if you're a big Disney fan, you're a big Disney fan. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I think as fans, we also have to be cognizant that not everyone is on that same page. So if you're meeting new people, it's probably good to kind of like ease into it a little bit. Like, I mean, you know, don't change who you are, but like, you know, obviously there's like, you have to navigate the social waters a little bit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. There's a little bit of that social intelligence there where it's like time and place, right? So.
Oh, well, for instance, my wife hid it from me when we were dating. Like, it wasn't until we got married. Like, I knew they went quite a bit, but I had no clue. And I'd been like twice my whole life. And then once we were married, I found out, I'm like, oh, this is a thing. And then, you know, we went to the park a few times. I enjoyed going. So like, she kind of got me into it, but yeah, you know, you can go more subtle ways, not like just out front everybody where you're just like wearing the Mickey ears to like a company gathering or something like that. Like, totally.
Yeah, 100%. What say you, conductor? How are you when it comes to meeting new friends? Or hey, you meet a girl at the club, right? Are you gonna lean into the Disney adult thing, or are you gonna wait a few days until you get into that?
You know what's interesting about that is I would actually probably, depending on where I meet them, if I meet them in the park, obviously that's an instant conversation. Yeah, if I meet them outside the park, then I kind of will just, you know, discuss and whatnot, but I won't bring it up unless she brings it up or he brings it up. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Disney's not for everybody. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat it. It's not for everybody. Theme parks aren't, you know, the biggest thing in a lot of people's lives. So unless they bring it up or we've been dating for a while or I've known the guy long enough, I probably wouldn't bring it up instantly.
Yeah. At least not with like super intensity, right? You know,
No.
and it's kind of weird how I paused it and Mando's pointing at me. I feel really
He is
uncomfortable.
pointing right at you. He is very,
Yes.
very aggressive.
Dropping the kids off at school, or going out with friends on a Friday night. As with any fandom or hobby or passion, the hobby's job is to add extra color and brightness, maybe definition, motivation, or inspiration if you're lucky, to the complex and evolving masterpiece that is you, right? My favorite chapter of the book is chapter 3, where I tell the true stories of a bunch of Disney adults who are so utterly different from one another. Epically so. Lady Chappelle is a tattoo artist who solely specializes in Disney designs. Julia tragically lost her leg in a freak car accident, but fitted herself with a blade and ran a Run Disney race anyway. Jared and Lindsay had made it to the pinnacle of performing on Broadway in New York City, but moved to Orlando and got jobs at Disney World and don't regret it for a second. I was able to collect a lot of unique Disney adult stories while writing this chapter, and I know that a lot of you sent me your stories as well, and I read every single one, and I used them as inspiration and guiding research as I wrote the book. And you know what I figured out? Disney adults look a lot like other humans. Believe it or not. No, really, we do. We're seeking something that makes us feel safe and secure and accomplished and happy, just like everybody else. Why does everyone hate?
Yes, and I see nothing wrong with that, where people want to have joy in their life, or like she was saying, safety and comfort. But I do believe there is sometimes people can take that, not just with Disney, it could be anything, you know, to an unhealthy level though. Like there does come a point where it's like you kind of like okay, I like to drink, I like to have a beer, but I you know, if I had, you know, 12 of them a day, not great. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that, like overindulgence sometimes isn't necessarily super healthy. It kind of depends on how you go about it, right? So it's a little bit more nuanced and like, oh yeah, people just want to be happy. It's like, yeah, but when you're like avoiding life problems and you're kind of trying to numb yourself from adulting, that's where it's a big issue. Go ahead, Jared.
Well, I've classified it many ways as like if people use it as, and it could be like in Disney or sports or whatever, as a like quote religion, and it kind of operates that way for some people, where it's like that's where they go and they're happy. That's where they go and feel fulfilled. Like I don't necessarily think that's healthy. Like obviously do whatever you want to do, but I will say the examples she showed, the two groups I don't get. I'm not a tattoo person, so people that get a bunch of tattoos, especially like Disney tattoos, I'm like, that seems insane to me. And the other group are the Disney marathon people or the Disney runner people. There's no way I'm getting up at 3 a.m. to go run and then pay to do it. Like my only thing is like, if you're paying me to do it, I might, but these people are paying money to go run, which is already terrible. And then you're getting up that early. Like that group, I'm just like, listen, I'm glad you enjoy it. Like there's a lot of people in our audience that do Disney marathons, but I'm just like, I don't understand it. I've never understood that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not for everybody for sure. What say you, conductor, in terms of like, you know, having Disney as a place to go for happiness and joy and safety and comfort and all that stuff, and to escape a little bit. But do you believe there is a point when you can kind of go too far where it becomes unhealthy, or do you feel like maybe not?
So I actually do think there's a point you go too far with it. I think, you know, people that own a Magic Key, right? If they're going multiple times a week, that's a problem. I'm sorry. I'm just going to classify that because I agree with you, OG. You know, you're trying to escape your adulting. It's like, really? You know, there's more than the theme parks. There's more than Disney in your life. You might have a family. You might, you know, have a job. And what are you going to do? Sit there and go to Disney every day and say, oh, you know, this is my life. It's like, it is unhealthy. It's, you know, borderline obsessive. And that's, we see it all the time. And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad in a way. Now, when it comes to the Run Disney thing, like Jared was saying, I agree with him. I don't think I would pay Disney, first of all, for a medal, second of all, to run, and third of all, when I'm already waking up at 3 a.m. to go to work at Costco, I'm not going to wake up at 3 a.m. on my day off to go run. Even
Right.
though you know, there's nothing wrong with it other people, want to go do it. I know we have a good friend, me and OG, Jason Hill, that does it, and
Yes.
and it's something therapeutic for him and for everyone else that does it. Are you going to catch me doing it? No, especially when I have to pay for it on my day off. No.
No, hey, everyone's got different stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? And there is, and this is the one thing I really want to hammer home with this conversation too. There is a lot of gray area with this stuff, right? Like you were mentioning, conductor, with like going multiple days a week is unhealthy, right? That's true. But at the same time, if that person is making their living doing that, I feel like that's not unhealthy because that's how they are supporting their family. So it's like this weird, there's a lot of gray area. And so there is a lot of like both sides of this equation. Like you were saying, Jared, like the Matt Walshes, and then you have like the Disney adults where it's like these two extremes, like, grown adults shouldn't enjoy Disney unless they have kids. I don't agree with that,
Right.
but at the same time, Disney adults are like, well, let us just, just every day be here and just kind of forget about everything. Well, I don't agree with that either. There is that gray area that is usually the best and usually the healthiest, but
Well,
people-
let me clarify something real quick. When you mention that, what I mean specifically is people that have a job, not filming content for content purposes, but I mean like a 9-to-5 job like myself.
right.
If you would catch me at Disney 3 times a week and I'm working at Costco full time, I would not be surprised if either one of you text me or call me and say, "Do you have a problem? Do you need me to get you into a program or something, or what?"
Yeah, you can go overboard. You can go overboard with this or anything really, so absolutely.
Disney adults. Okay, so Disney adults have been around since Walt Disney created the first Mickey Mouse watch in the 1930s, which was marketed to men, women, girls, and boys. But it was during the 2020 COVID pandemic that things really ramped up for this group. When everyone was stuck at home and angry at the world, people went online and the internet became a receptacle for all of that anger. The Disney adult community, just beginning to emerge en masse via TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, was an easy target. But why? It can't just be because we're cringe, right? I mean, sure, we'll wait for over 6 hours for the latest limited edition Figment popcorn bucket. We'll cry and weirdly film it while watching a fireworks show we've literally seen 20 times. And we'll complain about there being too many strollers at literal Disneyland. Okay, I see your point. But there are other hobbies out there that have annoying and indulgent extremes too. People wait for hours in online waiting rooms to buy tour tickets for their favorite band, which, to be fair, costs a lot more than that popcorn bucket did. They spend thousands of dollars on season tickets for their favorite sports team. They get tattoos of their pets, and they buff their sports cars with diapers.
Yeah. No, and here's the thing. She's not wrong. I mean, the sports stuff, like you touched upon it, Jared, and the music artists and stuff. I mean, there's fandoms out there. Like, this isn't a Disney exclusive issue. Like, there's a lot of unhealthy behavior in a lot of fandoms. It's not just Disney, to be fair. Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, I can tell you, in the fitness community, there are people like, I love working out. I've done it most of my life. But there are people that I know that they can't talk about anything but working out. And you're like, dude, there's plenty of other things we can talk about. It's always revolves. Like, I get, like, there's always that. I think and she kind of hit it on the head there a little bit where she said, where's the hate come from? I think most of it's TikTok and social media is the people that are like, you get these obnoxious people, and I think they do it and they play it up to get views. But like, I think a lot of it stems from TikTok, as these people like, and then people look at, they're like, what in the world is this? And I think that's probably where most of this probably stems from.
Well, yeah, because some of these, I mean, people that run across that stuff on TikTok or what have you, or Instagram, whatever it is, that's their window into this fandom and their only window into it. Because if they're not a Disney fan themselves, this is all they know. That's their only reference point.
Right.
And you see like really obnoxious or cringy stuff. You're like, who are these people? And it's not representative of the whole fandom, but they don't know that from the outside. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Go ahead, conductor.
No, I was gonna agree with Jerry. It's a lot of clickbaiting, first of all. So that's the first problem I have. The second thing is, back in 2020, and she hit it right on the head, is when the lockdowns happened. That's when social media cranked up with people just going on there, ranting, raving, post after post after post, hate speech, all this crazy nonsense, because I kind of feel before 2020, it wasn't really that bad. It was bad, but not super bad. Then when 2020 happened, that's when just things ramped up all across all platforms. Literally.
Yeah, 2020 changed everything. It really did. I don't think we've ever fully recovered from that.
Oh, that's a whole other conversation. We definitely have not as a society. Yeah, the mass psychosis, I think, is still happening.
100%.
Maybe that was just something I saw in an 80s movie and doesn't really happen. But the tattoos of pets thing, that's for real. No, that's kind of cringe, right? So why is that all socially acceptable, but being a Disney adult isn't? Good question. And I know you're all going to the comments right now to tell me that getting tattoos of your pets is totally fine. And it is. Anyway, I cover a lot of reasons in the book, but today here.
And actually, I think she's right with the concert stuff. I think she's right with the sports stuff. The pet thing is a little different just because that's another living thing. That's like your pets are like part of your family.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like it's not a brand or like, a celebrity. So I think the pet thing's a little different, to be honest, but yeah.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah.
Or just a couple of the answers to why other hobbies are okay, but this one, for so many critics, isn't. First and foremost, Disney's for kids. And if you like Disney as an adult, then what's wrong with you? There is absolutely an element of Disney adulthood that is glorifying childlike wonder. But can that nostalgia end up bordering on childishness? For many who haven't had positive experiences in Disney theme parks or watching Disney movies, obsessing over a theme park with rides for babies is just plain weird. There's so much to unpack here because, yeah, man, it sounds super weird. But what's always been true about what Walt Disney created, from Steamboat Willie to Snow White to Disneyland, is that, in Walt Disney's own words, you're dead if you aim only for kids.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I do not think that Disney is for kids. Kids are part of it for sure, but it's for everybody. And really, Disney also, when you go to Disney parks, the experience is really what you make of it. Like if I go with Jared and conductor, if we all three go together, right? And we go grab a few drinks, we hang out, like that experience is different than if we go with like your kids or, every visit to the park is different based on the company that you're with. And there's a lot of things for just adults to do. I mean, there's a lot of bars, a lot of, so it's not when people from the outside go, yeah, Disney's for kids. That isn't true. I mean, the company wasn't founded for that. It wasn't founded to be just for kids. Walt Disney made that very clear. And to this day, I don't think it is just for kids. What say you, conductor? Then I'll go to Jared.
So I actually do believe it's not made for kids, because when you look at Disneyland when it first opened and Walt was roaming around and stuff, there were stores on Main Street and Frontierland, that were strictly adult. And then when you look at DCA today, even Walt Disney World, there's bars all over the place. You're going to tell me that's made for a kid? Are you serious? And then, some of these after dark events, is it really made for kids, or is it kind of like it's made more for the adult crowd to kind of hang out and party, which I kind of think it is personally, but I don't know. I don't think that was Walt's vision when he was originally building Disneyland, and then eventually, the company moved to Florida and built Walt Disney World. I don't think that was his vision at all. It caters to everybody. And you make a great point, OG. Every single time you go, it's a different experience. It depends who you're hanging with, right? Or even if you're going solo. It's always a different experience because you might see something that you didn't see the last time, and then so on, so on, and so on. But Jared, go ahead.
No, I agree. I mean, I think Walt, he always was very much about having the wonder in seeing things. And I think, not to get too deep, I think a lot of the hate stems from there's a lot of people out there that don't like their lives. Like they don't like their jobs. And when they see people doing something that they view as childish, or maybe deep down, maybe not, but maybe they would like to do something like that, there is some sort of like vitriol that gets there where it's like, well, you're supposed to be an adult like I am, and you're supposed to not be doing this stuff. I think there is part of that, but I do think like it get outside of Walt's vision of the modern Disney adult? Probably, but Walt did design the parks for families and adults and everyone to enjoy. So it never was just specifically about the kids alone. It was a place where families can go and adults could have fun also there as well. That's one of the reasons he made Disneyland. So I think there is something there in the subconscious, maybe of some people, where they kind of get mad when they see people in their view doing things that they think are silly. And you see it not only in the Disney realm, but like other things as well. Like, oh, why do you have so many toys? You're an adult. It's like, well, there's people that have families and jobs that just like to collect things that they liked from their childhood. Like, it's just, I think there's a lot of that perspective from people that just, you're not supposed to do that because you're supposed to be an adult and you're supposed to kind of just mold with the crowd. And I think that probably stems a lot from that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these you're 100% right on that, Jared. And there's a lot of these arbitrary rules in society.
Yes.
When it comes to that kind of thing. And it's just like, it's not just with Disney stuff, but it's like with a lot of different things. You hear this stuff like, well, you're 35. You can only do this, or you can only do that, or you're, I never bought into that, that kind of these
same thing with
rules
with video games. They're like, well, you're not supposed to be playing video games. You're 42 years old. I'm like, I've been playing video games since I was 8. Like, who are you? Like, if I'm gonna play video games, I want to play video games. But you get this on anything, really. It's like you're supposed to have certain adult hobbies, and if you don't have the approved hobbies, there's going to be reaction from people.
Yeah, exactly. The socially approved hobbies, 100%. And she brings up a great point too, where she said a moment ago, where it's like there is a difference between adults that have childlike wonder and curiosity and being childish.
Yes.
Like the very different stuff. Like the three of us, we have that childlike wonder, that curiosity where, we enjoy having a good time and this, that, and the other. Even like stuff like that we talked about, Jared, with the pyramid and stuff, the ancient Egypt and the aliens. That's kind of almost like we have that childlike wonder and curiosity, but we're not childish though. And that's totally different things.
Yeah.
And that's where this gray area stuff comes in with a lot of this. Is like, but a lot of people nowadays on the internet, they don't ever work.
There's no gray areas. There's a black and white on everything. Yeah.
100%.
Adults are only kids grown up anyway. He was a shrewd businessman. He knew who held the wallets, and it wasn't the kids. Vacationing at a theme park isn't weird. Nobody bats an eye if I go to Universal Studios or Six Flags. So the problem is perception here. Disney's stereotype, which is easily disputed with facts about thrill rides and adults-only restaurants and lounges and drinking around the world. Disney literally owns American Horror Story. But my book isn't a defense of Disney adults, so we approach this whole thing a little differently in Chapter 4, and I can't wait for you to read it. And then second, this is why I'm so glad I got the chance to write this book, because this is important. Disney and Disney adults are connected to other hot button issues. Prejudices you wouldn't even associate with Disney consciously are absolutely affecting your perception of Disney adults, because Disney's goal is to reflect their audience through their storylines, and they end up tapping into a list of topics that you don't want to bring up with Uncle Phil and Aunt Susan during Thanksgiving dinner. From politics to race relations, socioeconomics to gender roles, etc. The stereotypes around Disney adults tend to open doors for more serious bouts of online discourse. And while it's highly unlikely that someone's Disney obsession originated from one of these more divisive standpoints, for some, the fandom goes hand in hand with where the company stands on other matters beyond faith, trust, and pixie dust. So a Disney adult for some might be more of a political lightning rod rather than just another human being trying to find their happy place. Now, I'm not here to change your mind about Disney adults. Really, I'm not. But there's something that no matter where you land on the subject, you've got to agree with. The Disney adult community is huge and getting way huger. This group has created their own subculture complete with social taboos and...
But see, is it getting bigger though? I don't know.
I don't think it's getting bigger. I've made the argument that the Disney adult will be a dying thing because that was a lot of the millennials. Like, I don't think Gen Z is going to have a lot of Disney adults.
Right. I don't feel it getting bigger at all. I feel it's contracting,
Yeah.
I mean, Disney's always going to be around. I mean, at least in our lifetimes, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't feel like it's growing. I don't feel like it's growing at all. What say you, Conductor? You think it's growing or shrinking, this adult Disney adult thing?
I think it's shrinking, quite frankly. I think, the Gen Z, upbringing is really taken an interest in social media. And I don't think the Disney, adults are going to grow anymore, at least right now. I think social media is going to grow with the Gen Zs, but I don't really think Disney adults are going to get that much bigger if it grows at all.
Well, and here's the thing too. Gen Z does not drink. At least right now they're not.
Right.
And,
Not right now.
and these Disney bars are really catering to the millennials who do drink.
Yep.
But millennials eventually are going to get older, and eventually they're going to be like the boomers, right? And it's going to be Gen Z's show basically. And if they continue this trajectory of not wanting to drink, this whole culture is going to change in a big way.
Well, and I think a lot of the Disney adults stems from the Disney Renaissance that happened.
Yes.
Because back in those days, like there was the Disney Channel, and like there were like you could just watch Disney stuff. There's so much more entertainment now that's so diversified, and I guess you could just say decentralized is probably a better word to use there.
A great way of saying it. Yeah.
And then you also have like the emergence of it can't be understated, the emergence of Universal, where even talking about theme parks alone, there's just more choices. And so I just don't think as many people will decide in the future just to be like, I'm only a Disney adult. Like, I'm sure they'll exist on some level, but I disagree with her vehemently that like I don't think it's a growing demographic. I said this is an issue for Disney if this is a group they rely on. I don't think you see this type of Disney adult in like 20 or 30 years with these younger generations. Not that people still won't go to Disney, but it's not going to be this like singular obsessive thing like the people that grew up in the 90s with like the Lion King and Aladdin and all these movies that really got people into the brand.
Oh, 100%, Jared. I agree with you 100%. And I mean, even like boomers, right? Like when you talk about decentralized, that's exactly it. Boomers, they had like 4 channels on television.
Yep.
So the Mickey Mouse Club was huge because that's like the one kid show they had at that time slot. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, when we were growing up, I mean, Saturday morning cartoons. Like,
oh, yeah.
We all watched the same 4 or 5 cartoons because that's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
But kids nowadays, Gen Z, they live on their phones. They got Netflix, all kinds of stuff now, Disney Plus, where they can choose. They can watch this Japanese animation all day if they want. They can watch whatever, K-dramas or Disney stuff or Warner Brothers cartoons. It's not like the same thing when we were kids where we only had 4 or 5 different options,
Yeah. Well, and a good example, my mother-in-law, you would call a Disney adult, but she's into Disney because she remembers Walt. Like she loved Walt. And so so hers is much different than say my wife who grew up with those movies and like her favorite princess is like Princess Jasmine and stuff. So it's different for different generations. And I just think this newer one, and also you got to think, dude, Disney, unless they have a renaissance yet again, it's going to be really difficult to really have this whole Disney adult centric group into the future, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that.
Mores. They run clothing companies catering to their fellow Disney fans. They hold fundraisers for causes dear to the hearts of the community, and they run so many TikTok channels. They've even created niche communities and events like Dapper Days, Gay Days, Drinking Around the World in Epcot. Speaking of, just to make this point extremely topical, throughout the month of August, lots of restaurants in Disney World are coming together to celebrate my new book with me with a Disney adults themed snack crawl. So these restaurants have actually created specific snacks and drinks exclusively to celebrate this book's release, which you can check out too if you're coming here in August by clicking on the link in this video's description for our crawl map, which is disneyfoodblog.com/crawl map. And you can see who's got specialty food items for the month of August to celebrate the Disney Adults book. Now, as I was saying, the Disney adult community is mighty. It is impressive. And thanks to social media, as well as a cadre of surveys, Disney actually does listen to its fans. Yeah, they know we're here. They listen to us. They listen to the Disney adults who are constantly rooting for them and giving them that
See, I don't agree with that either, though. That's the thing. Like, okay. Okay. I think with Josh D'Amaro, that is going to be the case. I 100% think he wants to placate to the fan base. I 100%. I don't think Disney always listens to their fans. I think no,
they don't. I mean, I know for certain, I talked to somebody that had talked to people like high up at Disney, And they even said like they view themselves, like Disney World at least, they view it as a how'd they say it, like a tourist resort, and that the diehard fan base, they're like, yeah, they're gonna go no matter what. Like they don't really like there's been lots of complaints or suggestions that like in their defense, I guess they'd be like, well, if you're gonna come, if you're this diehard, what are you gonna do? Not go? So it's like, they just kind of like, whatever.
Well,
Like, yeah.
well, no, you're 1,000% right, because they're locked in. I mean, and even when you have the fandom complaining on social media, a lot of these people will still go anyway. So Disney sees that and they're like, yeah, we don't have to change because you're locked in no matter what. So that's a big part of it. The other thing too that I think is a big factor is I think Disney also sees not all, but a lot of the fandom to be kind of unrealistic, or they go overboard with stuff. And like, oh, well, that trash can has been there since I was a kid. How dare Disney remove, like, that kind of stuff. And I think Disney kind of tunes us out a little bit in a lot of ways because of that kind of thing,
Yeah, I think so. I could definitely see that. Especially like when you have big complaints, but then you have people that really focus on like like you're saying, these little bitty things that all becomes white noise. And it's just like, unless you're intently trying to figure out exactly what they're complaining about, you can easily ignore it.
Yes, well said, well said.
So important constructive criticism. And you know why? Because we're giving them a bunch of money. And if you want proof that Disney listens and changes course accordingly, well, there are plenty of examples about that in the book. The Disney adult community is loud and diverse and passionate, and as someone who runs my own brand, that sounds amazing. To have a dedicated fandom as invested as Disney adults are in the Walt Disney Company seems like a dream, and I hope that Disney thinks so too. So yep, I am a Disney adult. I've made memories with my family across multiple Disney vacations. I've got a closet full of Disney souvenirs. I know Disney menus like the back of my hand. And yep, I've also had to battle my own Disney demons to pull myself out of some obsessive phases in my life that bordered on addiction. Again, it's all in the book. And I can say with dozens of years of experience behind me as part of this community, the stereotypes are there for a reason, but there's so much more below the surface that you've never, ever thought about. So I hope you, whether you're a Disney adult or just...
Well, I want to thank DFB Guide. Great video. And honestly, she's right. At the end there is a lot more beneath the surface. There is a lot of gray area. There is a lot of nuance. I think the extremes of both sides sort of like to simplify it, and a lot of times it just isn't that way, So, yeah, but overall, it's very interesting. And I think this is a topic that I think people are going to be discussing for years to come. Now, maybe it will be something that kind of fizzles out a little bit, because like we were talking, Jared, we're like, this younger generation might not be as obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. So the Disney adult thing might not be as big in 10, 15, 20 years. And this conversation might not really be a thing in 15, 20 years, but we'll see. But Conductor, before we move on to Jack from DSNY, any final thoughts? And then I'll go to Jared.
No, I'm good.
Everything okay, Jared?
I think maybe she should write a book. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if she gave any hints during that whole thing.
I think so. Wouldn't that be great, man?
I mean, it seems like you might have a book ready to go. I don't know. Maybe she does. I don't know.
100%. I love it. All right, now we are going to react to one last video today. This is Jack from DSNY, good friend of the channel. He did a whole breakdown of the layout for Villains Land at Magic Kingdom. So, gentlemen, I'm going to press play. We're going to break it down. Here we go.
Hi there, Walktoneers. I'm Jack, and this is DSNY Newscast. And today, I want to talk all about the massive expansion that's currently taking place at the Magic Kingdom. And this is for the Cars-inspired Piston Peak National Park area, and of course, the much-anticipated Villains Land as well. And I was at Magic Kingdom last week, and I decided to take a stroll back towards Big Thunder Mountain to have a look at what was going on back there. And quite frankly, I was shocked to see the level of construction site activity for this expansion project from within the park itself over nearby the bridge for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And obviously, I took a bunch of construction photos and footage that you can see on the screen right now where I wanted to share with you all. But I've got to say that it's very impressive seeing the sheer scale of this expansion project with your own eyes and seeing all the land grading and the site preparation that's well underway. But then when I was leaving Magic Kingdom, I was scrolling away as you do to pass the time, and I came across this post from Behind the Thrills, and I want to give credit to them for this. So I'm leaving links down below in the description box to @BehindThrills over on Twitter and also Instagram, so go check them out. But in this post, they had a recent permit filed for the Magic Kingdom, and it was with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Now, I know how this all sounds. It doesn't sound particularly interesting, but it is. And what this is a wastewater document that shows outlines for utilities and facility buildings within the expansion area. And so supposedly what we're looking at here is an approximate layout for the Cars area and Villains Land at the Magic Kingdom, if this document is anything to go by. And so today I want to do a deep dive into this permit document and discuss all the various possibilities that this may unlock about what we will know about Villains Land, and do some healthy speculation along the way as well. But where I actually want to begin is the completion date that was also listed for this document, and it's been listed as December 2029. Now, this is not confirmation that Villains Land is going to be opening in December 2029. But what is interesting is that back at D23 in 2024, it was stated at the time that these projects that were announced should be complete within the next 5 years or so. Yeah. So 5 years on from 2024 leads us to 2029, and it just goes to show that they are aiming at that time frame for these construction projects. Then the other thing to mention here is that back in October 2025, we got a new permit for stormwater drainage within Villains Land. And again, it doesn't sound very interesting, but it was, because what it showed us were the drainage lines within the expansion site. And I want to give credit to blogmickey.com, because Mike posted a theory that a lot of the drainage lines do need to be easily accessible by Disney. And so they're typically not underneath various show buildings, because then they wouldn't be very accessible. And I did a whole video on this at the time and tried to predict the layout of Villains Land within that video in October 25. And now looking at the drainage lines and layering it on top of the permit that we can see with the buildings, most of the drainage lines do avoid the very large buildings within the area, with the exception of just one building where the drainage line goes underneath. So it is interesting from the standpoint of that was sort of confirmation that these will be sort of guest walkable areas within the Villains Land area back there. So it's kind of breadcrumbs kind of aspect of this, you know, we're trying to piece it all together. Now, when you look at both these permits overlaid, you're probably thinking to yourself, it looks relatively sparse. Sure, there's some big buildings within this area, but where are all the smaller buildings? And that's something I want to make a note of, because I think that this wastewater document is only showing us the major attraction buildings within this land, because obviously a Villains Land, to create that kind of whole land aesthetic, I'm guessing there's going to be smaller storefronts and merchandise stands and quick service locations and table service restaurants as well.
Now, Jared, as a Floridian, does that concern you, like, to the sparseness of it, or do you agree with Jack where it's like, yeah, it's probably just the bigger buildings?
I'm guessing it's probably bigger buildings, because you're gonna have, even in a land, you're gonna have your major ride buildings, but you're gonna have like that you can't see from the guest side. You're gonna have like cast member break areas. You're gonna have like I know in Animal Kingdom, there's like a subway behind Flight of Passage. There's just stuff that I think will be there. So more than likely, I agree with him. It's probably the major ride buildings, because you're going to have shops, you're going to have food stands. Probably, I would imagine like a sit down restaurant is going to be in Villains Land. So I would probably agree. Although I will say, if all this is done in 5 years, I will eat my words. I will just be utterly shocked if Villains Land is open anytime before 2030. I would be utterly shocked.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. That's a great point you bring up. I wanted to ask you, we know that they drain the rivers of America. They're working on the Cars area. Have they dug into the Villains portion of it? Do we know yet? Or have they even started that end of it?
So the last because I always do these construction updates, they've been land degrading Villains Land, but they haven't been doing, as far as I know, I don't believe that construction on, like, say, major elements of that land will start until, I don't know if it'll start until the Piston Peak stuff is completed, or probably well underway, because I think that will open first, and Villains Land is going to be the last thing that opens. But I don't know. I'm curious. I am curious if it's different, because Disney's never been in this spot before, because obviously all of this is a response to Universal on some level. Right. If they feel pressure to really build quicker than they typically do, And then now you have this whole other element of Josh D'Amaro coming into the picture. Does he kind of put, because I think under Iger especially, these construction timelines just seem to kind of, get spread out and spread out and spread out.
Right.
That's the one thing about this. If Josh comes in, it's just like, we're getting this stuff built and we want to continue to build. That's one thing. So if that does happen, I think it'd probably be Josh D'Amaro coming in maybe. But no, that whole thing, I'm curious about that. But if I were to guess, I've said all along, I think Villains Land sometime in the 2030s when that does, finally open.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're right though. That's definitely a wild card. Like, because right now Josh is operating with the mindset of like, I got to impress my boss, which is Bob, even in that interview, he was like actively trying to impress him.
Multiple times as well.
Multiple times, I mean, it's wild. But like once Bob is out of the picture and Josh has more freedom to kind of do what he wants to do without kind of Bob Iger there and that influence, you're right. I mean, they might change the whole way they do things. We talk a lot about how Disney takes forever to build. Josh might change that, and here's the thing, Josh, he seems like a guy who does answer to the fans. And that is a huge fan complaint. And that has been a huge fan complaint for so many years. So I don't know.
And don't forget either, Universal is actively building another coaster. They're going to do something with Supercharged. More than likely, Pokemon's going to Lost Continent. They're all, even beyond Epic, they're starting all these new things to put even more pressure on Disney. So I could see a scenario where Josh is like, okay, we need to get this stuff built quick because by the time a lot of these things open, they might be an answer for the newer things since Epic's opened that they're kind of rebuttaling for, and you're kind of catching yourself behind an 8 ball. So the speed of construction of Universal, I do think, is a major player in this with Disney, because that's an asset that they just build quicker. I mean, whether or not you like what they build, they do build quicker, which I think does put pressure on Disney.
Yeah, no, they definitely, their strategy is we're gonna knock this stuff out. We're not gonna stretch it over like, all this time. Disney, if they wanted to, they could build faster, but they choose not to. They decide they want to spread this stuff out over as many fiscal quarters as possible,
Yep.
I mean, even the Avatar thing out here in California, it's like they have Coco and they have the 2 Avengers rides. So it's like, yeah, we can't work on that yet because we have 2 projects over here. It's like everything is very like, like calculated quarter by quarter, where Universal doesn't care. They're like, you know what, just start everything.
Yeah.
It's a whole different mindset.
All within that area that will kind of fill out the rest of the body of the land there. So I think what we're looking at here with these main buildings are to do with major points of interest within the expansion. Now, the thing that we can do with this permit is that we can layer this onto Google Earth and give an approximate measurement of the size of the show buildings. And I'm going to label these like building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and things like that, so we can all follow along quite easily. But the biggest building is what I'm labeling as building 1. And this building,
now real quick to kind of like circle back, I don't think Jack is a Disney adult.
I don't think he's like either. No.
Yeah, I think he's a fan like us. I think he just appreciates this stuff. I mean, he's breaking out the Google Maps, he's doing the nerdy thing,
right?
But he's not a Disney adult, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Building is approximately around 83,000 square feet. And what's interesting here is that back in my October video that I was trying to predict the layout of Villains Land, I said in that back right-hand corner behind Haunted Mansion, you could easily put a very large attraction show building in that top right-hand corner there, because then it would have easy backstage access and share the backstage access roads for the Magic Kingdom. And I said at the time that you could approximately fit an 85,000 square foot show building back there. And now we can see, measuring this out on Google Earth, that there will be a building roughly in that same location, and it will be 83,000 square feet. Now, this 83,000 square feet number doesn't really mean much unless we have some context. So let's make some comparisons here to other attractions of a similar size. Now, Pirates of the Caribbean at Magic Kingdom is approximately 80,000 square feet. Dinosaur over Animal Kingdom, which is changing over to Indiana Jones, is also approximately around 80,000 square feet. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is approximately 82,000 square feet. And so, judging by the list of attractions there, those are all very high capacity, very substantially sized attractions. And so this is probably going to be one of the major attractions within Villains Land just based off its size. Then we've got Building 2, and Building 2 itself is also quite large. It's 55,000 square feet approximately when it's measured out on Google Earth. And to give context for the size of this building, 55,000 square feet, Haunted Mansion is approximately around 50,000 square feet, and so is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure over at Epcot. And what's interesting here,
That's fascinating. So we have two big show buildings, we're assuming here, which is fascinating because, okay, I knew they were going to do one e-ticket that was going to be like an indoor, like headliner attraction. I knew that. The coaster, though, like from the art, seems like it's more outdoors. So I guess, right?
Yeah, I was just wondering if they're going to do 3 attractions in this land.
Oh, that would be interesting. Because we never got an official ride count.
They've given very few actual details on this. Well, part of it is I think they're still, at least from D23, they were still going on like field trips about what they want this land to look like. Yeah. But if you look at that concept art, which I would say I don't get married to Disney concept art, but it did clearly show a castle and a outdoor coaster. Now, I suppose one of those could be for the castle, and maybe it's a walkthrough thing. It's got something inside of it, maybe, or maybe the castle is part of a ride that they do. Yeah. That's very possible, but it would be interesting if they'd go with 3 rides in here.
Yeah. What say you, conductor? What do you think about that? I know you're big on that. Like you don't like the idea that we're only getting 1 attraction at Pandora. I mean, what if they built 3 attractions out here in Villains Land?
I think that would be absolutely phenomenal. I think it would be a great response to Dark Universe, which I've been told by Jared and others is very small. So if this Villains Land had 2 attractions, 3 attractions, I think it would be a great response to Dark Universe. And I'm not saying every time Universal builds something, Disney has to respond and then vice versa. I kind of just do feel, though, with Universal Monsters being the staple of the Universal company, and then you got Disney Villains, which is the staple of the Disney company, it's going to be a great competition, I think. And 3 attractions is not such a horrible thing to have, because you're right, OG. Pandora, I still to this very minute do not agree it should be shoehorned into the Hollywood backlot. We have vague details, and it seems like we're only getting 1 attraction. And a lot of people said, 1 attraction is enough. Not when I'm paying the prices that I'm paying to go in the DCA, when I could pay the same price to go into Disneyland, and it has twice as many rides, if not almost 3 times as many rides. So yeah, I think any land going forward needs to have at least two attractions to make it worthwhile, in my personal opinion.
Well, the dilemma that DCA is in, and you're right, is that it sits feet away from Disneyland. That's the biggest problem. If you put DCA in Santa Clarita or something, or Valencia or something, like, it would be a banger park in and of itself. But when you're sitting feet away from Disneyland is stacked. Like, it's stacked. There's so much to do in there. It pales in comparison. So yeah, we'll see. That is a very good point, conductor.
It's actually placed beyond the berm somewhat of Magic Kingdom and into what's been zoned currently as laydown yard for all the construction equipment, staging, and all that sort of stuff. So it is interesting to see this very large building sitting there right smack bang on top of the railroad tracks and extending the area out into the laydown yard area. It'll be interesting to see how far the guest walkable area will extend beyond the berm of the Magic Kingdom, or whether it'll just be this attraction show building will be there, and what the new railroad track will end up looking like around Magic Kingdom here. And now we've got building 3 here, which is an unusual shape and size, and it's around 15,700 square feet approximately. And it's an unusual long rectangular shape, which doesn't typically lend itself to an attraction show building, and it also doesn't typically lend itself to restaurants or quick service within the location. It's possible that it could be, but if we're to look at something like Be Our Guest for a table service restaurant size, that's roughly around 25,000 square feet. And so 15,000 square feet, it's 10,000 short of that. But if I was to make a prediction right now, based on the shape alone of the building, I think it's part of some sort of roller coaster for Villains Land.
Yep.
And the reason for that is if we look at the Spider-Man coaster over in Shanghai Disneyland, but we've got permits for, that also has a similar shaped building for the roller coaster. So what I'm looking
okay, this is fascinating because Jared, your point about 3 rides might be accurate because I mean, it's looking like that is probably the coaster. I mean, unless both of these buildings are for that coaster, I don't know. Maybe you go through a show building, I don't know, but I kind of doubt that.
You could. That's a big show building though for some of those 2 buildings though for a coaster. I mean, my guess at this point would be either 3 rides or one of those is a castle. The train track though is interesting because I don't know, maybe they end up going underneath. I guess they could, but that's what makes me wonder about that part of that one building that's got the railroad track going through it and what that'll look like. But that hasn't, I mean, the Space Mountain's got that similar thing. You actually go underneath in the queue to make room for the railroad tracks to go above.
And doesn't that do the same thing for Tron?
Yeah, they had to redo the railroad track for Tron. So yeah, it goes through part of that area. So it doesn't mean it couldn't be a ride.
Well, this is what I'm wondering is because when you look at the Fast and Furious building out here in Hollywood for our coaster, you know, not only is it, you know, the show building for the coaster, but we got a gift shop, we have a bathroom, and we have a maintenance bay all in the same building. So it makes me wonder if that's what this is, the bigger building. And then the long, skinny building is some type of indoor element for the coaster, like an indoor scene or something. Or when you look at the concept art, and I know we can all agree never get married to concept art, but when you look at it, it looks like the coaster track is going literally right between 2 waterfalls, or, you know, kind of like Niagara Falls, and the coaster's going right through the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
That could be possible as well.
Yeah, we'll see.
Looking at with building 3 here, and what I'm speculating on is, could this be some sort of interior theming element part of the roller coaster for Villains Land? Could this be some major show scene that we'll see indoors for the roller coaster as it slows down through this particular building, which I think it could be a little bit like how Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure over Islands of Adventure has an indoor elaborate show scene as part of that outdoor roller coaster.
Bro, okay, I've never been to Universal Orlando. This looks freaking sick, dude.
Oh, I'm going on it.
Hagrid's is the best. It's my favorite coaster. It's awesome. It's usually like one of the top, most people will say one of their easily top 5 coaster. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. And the way that you sit kind of high on those motorbikes, I feel like that changes how you feel.
So one's high, then one's a sidecar. So if you sit on the bike part, you do kind of sit up. But if you're in that sidecar, you're kind of sitting low. So they're kind of different experiences that way. But if they, I mean, listen, I know Disney would get flack, and I'd probably mock them for some way of like if they kind of made their own version of Hagrid's. But I wouldn't blame them because it's a great coaster. Like if they made their own version with the villain stuff where you go in and do this thing, I think it would be a really big hit if they were able to pull that off.
Well, and it's kind of brilliant, right? You have one ride vehicle giving 2 different experiences.
Yep. And I'm wondering too, if they do have this coaster where maybe it goes throughout all the land, that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, well, 100%. And that would address one of the fears that the fans have, because this Villains Land could easily fall into the Batu trap. Yes. Where the rock work is pretty, but there's nothing really going on. If you have that coaster kind of going through it, that kind of alleviates a little bit of that concern because you got a ton of kinetic energy in that.
And you'll see this when Conductor, you'll see it soon, but OG, when you eventually go to Epic in Isle of Burke, Hiccup's Wing Gliders goes throughout the entire land. And you see it all the time. So it adds this element of kinetic energy in the entire land. But when you're on the coaster, it kind of gives you a tour of the whole land itself too.
Yeah, I like
that's cool. That's really cool.
Now, we haven't had it confirmed it's going to be a roller coaster within Villains Land, but judging by the blue sky artwork that we've received, it does look like there's some sort of coaster within there. So if that does line up and they do have a roller coaster, I think that this is part of some sort of roller coaster building, whether it's an interior show scene that they have within there, or maybe it's the loading and unload station for the roller coaster. But I think it's part of that. Now, what's interesting about all this is those are the three main buildings within the body of what I think will be Villains Land here, building 1, 2, and 3. And for the description of Villains Land back at D23 in 2024, it was stated that Villains Land will have 2 major attractions, and we've got 3 buildings here. And so it raises the possibility that could 2 of these buildings possibly be connected in some way. Now, could building 1 and building 2 be connected together to create some sort of very large attraction show building and be connected in a similar way to how Pirates of the Caribbean is, with the small section that connects the 2 buildings together? Or maybe it's building 2 and 3 that are connected as a roller coaster and have building 3 be the loading area for the attraction, and then building 2 could be a major indoor gravity box for the roller coaster.
Now, can you imagine? Okay, let's just say that building 2 is like a giant show building for the roller coaster. That would be crazy, because you could do, theoretically, right? I'm just kind of like brainstorming here, but if you had, like, say, a ride system like Cosmic Rewind, you could have a giant Maleficent dragon in that thing, and you can have that coaster circle that dragon, and it can aim you facing it while you go around that, and all kinds of crazy stuff, man. You could do a lot in a building that size, and that would be pretty sick. Now, I don't know if they're going to go that crazy, though. Cosmic Rewind is kind of intense for Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, those 2 show buildings, or those 2 buildings at least, being that close together, that when I first saw that when it had a different view of it, I was like, those are awful close. It doesn't mean they couldn't be separate rides, but part of me thinks like 3 would be really swinging for the fences, and as much construction as they're doing, I'd be pretty surprised if they went with 3 attractions in here. But I do kind of feel like maybe it is either like 2 and 3 are together, or 2 and 1 are together on some way. I think that could be feasible, which would be a pretty big attraction either way. Yeah. Like if you're going to put a certain amount of money, I think you'd probably be better well spent to put it, kind of what we've seen them do, like 1 big e-ticket and then 1 smaller attraction. Not that I love having a secondary ride like that, but I think it makes sense if you want to have like a really big e-ticket attraction. That's where a lot of the money would probably go.
Definitely. Yeah, and this land in particular, you have to hit a home run with the land and the attraction. Number one, you're competing with Universal, and Darkmoor is amazing from what I'm hearing. It's really well done. A little small, but well done. And then a Villains like land or even a Villains park has been talked about in this community for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the expectations going into this thing are massive.
Mm-hmm.
They got to hit a home run.
And to be honest with you, I honestly think the more feasible option is 2 and 3, or 1 attraction, and 1 is its own attraction, kind of like a Rise of the Resistance trackless dark ride. That's what I think.
I kind of wondered that too. If you put 1 and 2 together, I would be curious what the square footage of Rise of the Resistance is.
Yeah. Because that would be massive. If you put 1 and 2 together, that's a game changer. That's a massive attraction.
That's a big ride if you do that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Weaves around the outside of Villains Land and then inside of a major gravity box as well. It's possible, but I do think we should start looking at maybe some of these buildings being connected from that perspective. Now, at this point in the video, if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive analysis of Villains Land and these permits and stuff like that, then please consider joining the official Waltner Club over on Patreon, as it's a great way to help support the channel. And I also share some exclusive posts from time to time as well. And I'd also like to say a massive thank you to all the official Waltners over on Patreon, and also the Waltner Gold members that you can see on the screen right now. Then the other thing that we got to talk about here is Building 4. Now, Building 4 is much, much smaller. It's only 8,500 feet. And in my layout of Villains Land, I did put a train station in this location because I thought it makes a lot of sense to have a stop that far away from the Frontierland stop within Villains Land to have direct access to Villains Land from back there with the train. And if we look at the train station for Storybook Circus, which also has restrooms built into it, that is approximately around 7,500 square feet. So given the fact that this is only 1,000 square feet more, I think we could very well be looking at some sort of train station in this area here. And then we've got to move a bit further out to Building 5, which, interestingly enough, on the permit isn't actually listed as a facility like all the rest of the buildings within this permit. It's actually listed as a building instead. And I don't know if this difference of a description between facility and building is actually indicating that potentially this could be a backstage building of some sort, as it's very far into the backstage area and is opposite where the Imagineering headquarters has been located for this project. So I don't know if this Building 5, which is 6,700 square feet, is necessarily part of the overall Villains Land, but considering that it's been labeled differently, I would say I'm leaning more towards it not being a show building. It's probably going to be some sort of backstage building just based on that. But if it was to be part of the main body of Villains Land and it was, you know, guest focused, then that would take Villains Land from approximately around 11 acres to a whopping 15 to 16 acres for the total size of the area. But I would say let's opt on the side of caution here and just measure out the buildings on the main part of the expansion area. And that is roughly around 11 to 12 acres for Villains Land, which is still the same size as Pandora over at Animal Kingdom. And it's the way they use.
So 11 acres. I mean, that's still a big boy. That's pretty good size. I mean, Pandora was pretty big, and it's 12 acres, Pandora.
Yes.
So it's about a Pandora, yeah.
And just to further clarify, I looked up the Rise of the Resistance building. It is between 160 and 165,000 square foot.
That's a big building.
That's a big boy. If you took the one building, the 80,000 one, and the 55,000 one, square feet wise, you're getting pretty close to a Rise of the Resistance between both buildings.
And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're going to go on a big ride, especially in this land. That's definitely possible. So they do some sort of really big thing. Now, curiously enough, Isle of Burke is the biggest land at Epic, and that's around 15 and a half acres. So it's not unfeasible that Villains could be 16 acres. But I guess the question would be, will it go beyond the railroad tracks?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not unheard of. I mean, even I think Galaxy's Edge is like what, like 14, I believe, or something like that. So,
it's somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Use the land. If they have a lot of kinetic energy and it's weaving around and they make really good use of the space, where there's a lot of wow moments and winding pathways and stuff like that throughout Villains Land, that will make the land feel much larger than it actually is. But then the next building within this permit is one which I'm going to be marking as the unknown mystery building. And its location is what makes it a mystery. And the size of it is around 5,700 square feet. Now, that's not a particularly large building, okay? It's not going to be a major attraction building from that size, but there are three possibilities based upon its location within the expansion. Now, its location is, as you can see, right next to the Haunted Mansion. And in my previous video, where I was talking about the construction on this area, I made a point about the recent land clearing taking place right next to the Haunted Mansion. And I thought it was curious what was going on with the Haunted Mansion in that location. And in November last year, I did a video talking about the missing piece of this whole expansion puzzle. And I personally think the missing piece, and you've heard me say this enough times, but is the Haunted Mansion restaurant. I would love to see that within the Magic Kingdom. But now that we've seen that this building is within the location, but it's only 5,700 square feet, that is not big enough for a table service restaurant in any way, any capacity. But there are three possibilities of what this could potentially be. Now, the first one, and I did state this in the November video as well, is that it could be a queue extension or a whole new queue for the Haunted Mansion. And it's an odd shape, that square shape of 5,700 square feet there. But the reason why I mentioned this is because if we look at the artwork that was initially released for the Cars area back in 2024, off to the far right-hand side of that artwork over there, there's some sort of green teal colored canopy within that area there, it looks like. And I said, could that be some part of the queue for Haunted Mansion? And now that we can see there's a building in this location, I think this could potentially be a new queue for the Haunted Mansion. And given that it's a square size, you could quite easily theme this to a mausoleum and have the queue kind of wind its way with switchbacks inside of a mausoleum and have it be a very interactive queue that's also enclosed, and relocating the queue for Haunted Mansion to create better guest flow into the area. Now, the next possibility is realistic, but
I'm going to make a guess here, and this is something I think Disney's want to do for a long time because they've done them on the cruise ships, is a Haunted Mansion lounge.
Yep.
Because if you look, I looked it up, the Beacon Barrel is like, they don't know for sure, but it's probably anywhere between 3,200 and 6,500 square feet. So if that's 5,000, and that thing was a huge hit on one of the Disney cruise lines, and you know Disney's going to do more of these lounges. That I've said for a long time, they did a Haunted Mansion bar, they'd make so much money, it'd be insane.
It'd be insane. They would print money. Yeah, that's my money is on that. I think I was going to say that. I believe that that's what it's going to be, because Disney can't help themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all. Not at all.
And we were just talking about this, right? With the Disney adults and how that drinking culture is real big with millennials. And right now there's enough millennial Disney adults to kind of fuel that whole thing. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Boring, and it's that it could be restrooms within this location. 5,700 square feet for restrooms would be very, very large in terms of restroom capacity there. After all, the ones for Galaxy's Edge over near the Droid Depot is 2,500 square feet in size approximately, and Toy Story Land's ones, which are sharing the exact same building as Woody's Lunchbox, that is 7,000 square feet. But that also shares a quick service location as part of the restroom building as well. Right. So unless this building was also to share some sort of quick service kitchen and quick service window, it's quite large for it to be restrooms, I would say. The other thing is that given the rest of the permit doesn't really have other smaller buildings like this, which would possibly be for restrooms and stores and quick service restaurants and table service restaurants, I don't think this is necessarily going to be restrooms, but I do want to put that possibility out there. And then the last possibility for this building is easily the most exciting, and is the one that I'm ever the optimist for, and it is, could this be a Haunted Mansion parlor on land? And the reason for this, I did a whole video of it back in November, but I said how great the Haunted Mansion parlor is on the Disney Treasure and the Disney Destiny, and how immersively themed it is, and how much of a winning concept it has been for those two ships, that they've decided to bring it to two different cruise ships. But also, given the success of the Beacon Barrel in the Magic Kingdom, I think that you could easily extend the storytelling of the Haunted Mansion into a bar environment. And if you to look at something like the Beacon Barrel, that is approximately around 2,500 to maybe 3,500 square feet. It's hard to exactly pin down the size of the Beacon Barrel, but it's not 5,700 square feet, that's for certain. Now, that has been hugely successful, and it has, you know, reservations to get in, but it also has a decent capacity inside there. If they were to take the Haunted Mansion parlor concept and scale it up to even larger than the Beacon Barrel, where it's only got 2 rooms in Beacon Barrel, really, and maybe have 3 rooms, it's very possible that you could easily have a Haunted Mansion bar within the Magic Kingdom like this. And given the fact that the Haunted Mansion parlor on the Destiny and Treasure, I would guess it's no bigger than probably 1,000 square feet, if that. If they were to scale up the parlor concept to 5 times the size and have various different rooms, it could very well handle the capacity that would be required for the Magic Kingdom, especially with reservations to get into the location there. But I think it's a very interesting one to watch out for. I think it has to be something to do with the Haunted Mansion, because it would be very jarring to.
I think I think you guys are both right. It's probably that bar. And here's another option, though. It might be a bar with a restroom attached to it.
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing. You probably, I mean, it would. I'm sure Beacon Barrel. Yeah, it's got restrooms all around there, so that would make a lot of sense that you would probably have a restroom inside there.
Yeah, like maybe like 3,000 square feet of it is the bar, then another, you know, whatever is the restroom or something. It's probably going to have like a little bit of a multi-use component, probably, I would think. The other thing that's pretty cool, I love this kind of idea of extending Haunted Mansion's theming out a little bit, going into Villains Land. I think that actually works really well, because Haunted Mansion, it's not villains, but like it's kind of villain adjacent, like with the theming a little bit, and it kind of works. I don't know. I feel like that's a perfect kind of segue into this villainous land. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Have something completely different there right next to Haunted Mansion, especially considering they've expanded Haunted Mansion's storytelling into Memento Mori and things like that. So I think they do want to make kind of more of a Haunted Mansion mini land in that area, and it would work. And then lastly, we come to the final 2 buildings within the permit, and these ones we do know are going to be within the cars area for Piston Peak. And building 1 here is 47,600 square feet approximately, and this is going to be the interior element of the rally race. So it's going to be a show building that will house the queue and the load and load, but it will also house indoor themed elements, because as we can see in the artwork, that the rally race will be going inside of the mountainous landscape at some point. So I'm guessing this 47,000 square foot building, it also encompasses indoor show elements, a little bit like Radiator Springs races, where you've got the beginning and end, where it's got these show elements. And then building 2, which is right there in the center, is approximately around 19,000 square feet. And to put this into context, Alien Swirling Saucers over in Toy Story Land is approximately around 18,000 square feet. And we do know there's going to be a second ride within Piston Peak, and from what everybody's been speculating, it's going to be a family-friendly flat ride of some sort. We don't know what the ride system is yet, but the 2 sizes there do line up with it being, you know, of the same sort of capacity as Alien Swirling Saucers or something like that. So interesting to see its location is right there in the middle.
And that flat ride might be that ride system, because we have Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, which is
I hope it's not, because Alien Swirling Saucers looks like it's 20 years old. That thing has aged horribly. Like it just it looks so old in there. It looked old after like a year too.
Man,
it was very weird.
Now, what is it? The ground is all kind of like scuffed and all ugly,
or
is it like
in that footage? It was a little like it's scuffy and like paint chipped off in the queue. Like it just hasn't really been maintained that well, it seems. But it also Toy Story Land is all outdoors in the Florida sun, so all that stuff just gets baked when it's out there, especially in the summertime.
Yeah, and you might not notice a little bit of that with if you guys do get like a Mater's attraction, it's kind of dirty. Like the vehicle, the Mater's kind of dirty, so it kind of like ages better in a weird way, because like
makes sense.
That might work, but who knows? I mean, it might not be Mater. I don't know, because you guys are getting this kind of like this kind of like national park thing.
Yeah, I'm curious that what the whole theming of it will be. I wouldn't be shocked if they just poured it over Mater's though, because he's a popular character that the kids know. But one thing I will say, for as much backlash as they got about getting rid of the Rivers of America, it makes sense that they would put in a more like a Haunted Mansion lounge or bar in there, because fans have been wanting that for so long. And if they made the case at a D23 that they did it so they could expand Haunted Mansion, and maybe some of that area that you're seeing is a future expansion of more Haunted Mansion stuff, that could be an olive branch to some of the people that were very critical of that. We'll see, but that could be.
That's a great point, Jared. And we've seen this before with Josh Giamaro, where okay, we're getting rid of Muppet Vision, but the Muppets will be over here with Rock and Roller Coaster. Like that's kind of like this compromising sort of these compromising moves. And you're right. I can see the Haunted Mansion bar and lounge kind of being like one of those moves. Yeah, you lost your river, but look at this really dope bar with the old Raleigh Crump designs in there and all this cool stuff. So it's a little bit of a little red meat for the diehards, you know?
Yep.
It seems like it will handle some capacity, and hopefully it will also be covered as well. So therefore, when there's inclement weather, it will also be operating when Rally Race might not be able to operate because of the outdoor weather environment. And so with that being said, that's everything that I can possibly, get from this permit at the moment. And hopefully we'll get more details in the near future for not only Piston Peak, but Villains Land as well, coming up at D23 in August of this year.
Now, I want to give a big shout out to Jack from DSNY. He's been in this game for a long, long time, making great content for years and years. So make sure you check him out on YouTube. Of course, I'll be linking his channel down below, along with the Disney Food Blog channel down below as well. I want to thank both creators for, producing great content. And it's fun to kind of nerd out and kind of react to this stuff. But Jared, before we get out of here, any final thoughts on this Villains Land video from Jack?
It's interesting. It's interesting. We're trying to get it's very Universal-esque. of getting permits and kind of putting it together. That's kind of how you do it with Universal, because they don't really tell you anything. You kind of piece it together before. So it's interesting with Disney. Now you've got a rough idea, I would say a rough draft of what they're going to do. Then you get some of these permits out here starting to piece it together. I'm kind of leaning more toward a really big e-ticket and maybe not 3 attractions, but I do think that Villains Land, they're probably going to swing for the fences. And what's going to be interesting, you're more than likely going to have Tropical Americas and Piston Peak open first. I wonder, like, depending on the reception of those, let's say that those don't, I'm not going to say none of them are going to be a flop, but let's say they don't open to like really the results that they're wanting in terms of like attendance and revenue. If they really just say, we got to knock, like, you put everything you've got left into Villains Land, I wonder if that's a possibility.
No, that's a great point. It's a fantastic point. Another thing too, for these 2 lands, this is going to change the game for Halloween, and not just with Villains Land, but I'm telling you, Jared, Cars Land goes all out for the holidays. I mean, even Halloween. So if they do that same kind of thing over there, I mean, this whole back area is going to be decked out, man. It's going to be really, really cool. So
yeah, and what we talked about last time, I could see this move in Magic Kingdom being obviously adding more attractions, but them having more things for like Halloween and Christmas parties. And being able to sell more of those tickets, which would be like almost a secondary income source other than just the attractions themselves, or like even after hours events. Like they could do a Villains Land, you know, you can expand how many more people can come into these events with more stuff that just eats up more crowds.
Definitely.
Yes. 100%. Another thing too that I'm really hoping they do with Villains Land, because this is kind of like a spookier, like darker land, I hope that we get a lot more like face character walk-arounds and not like the big bobblehead, like, you know, Hades, like this big, like corny, like, you know, I want to see like maybe like more face characters and stuff that sort of like kind of fits in with that vibe, not like the big traditional Disney parade villains. You know?
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, but conductor, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
So, final thoughts on villains personally. When Jack was showing Villains Land and how it could expand, I think that's more than a possibility. And to Jared's point, I personally think they're going to have 2 massive e-ticket attractions. One's going to be like Rise of the Resistance. The other one's going to be a coaster. And one thing I would like to see is the problem we have out here in DCA with the Oogie Boogie Bash. First of all, same thing. Second of all, not spooky enough. You know, my 5-year-old niece can go to it and not be scared. If they're spending all this money to build Villains Land, which we've wanted, like you mentioned, OG, over 20 years, I personally would like to see Villains Land during at least the Halloween season go a little more edgier than during the day. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. It's tough. I agree with you. It's tough because Disney's thinking, oh, this is Magic Kingdom, though. So it's like, we'll see.
But if they incorporate it into an after hours event,
I was going to say that.
You can justify that.
Yeah. Well, is that where your head was? That
they did Villains after hours events before COVID. That was a big. They had the regular after hours and they had the Villains version of them. I could totally see them bringing back Villains after hours, heavily featuring Villains Land and making that more spooky, because I mean, those weren't that kids couldn't go, but it's open till like 1 a.m. I think it was around that time. So it's like, you're not going to get a lot of kids doing stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, 100%. Gentlemen, always a good time talking to both of you. I appreciate you both. Jared, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Always love hanging out with you guys, talking about this stuff and nerding out on this. But you can find me at Captain Magic. I do daily videos unless I'm sick, which happened the other day. But other than that, daily videos over there. And then if you want some Disney World and Universal Studios Florida information, you can check out the CTM podcast on YouTube. It's over at CTM podcast. We can check that out. But yeah, that's where you can find me, and also social media is at Captain Magic as well.
There he is. I'll be linking his information down below, as well as the t-shirt store, all in the description. Theme park conductor, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and Jared from Capture the Magic, our East Coast correspondent when it comes to the theme parks out there. Absolutely two amazing gentlemen. And we interact with the chat. The chat interacts with us. It's such a great time. And I want to give a big shout out to Orange Grove 55 for always being a wonderful host and just an awesome content creator and dear friend of both me and Jared. So couldn't have a better friend to talk and nerd out about this theme park stuff. And as of this minute, this recording on February the 10th, I am 24 days away and counting before I hang out with Jared in Walt Disney World, and I have my reservations. Let's put it that way.
Both literally and figuratively, right? You have your reservations, and
sure. You have your reservations either way.
Yeah,
I do.
No, I think you're gonna have an absolute blast. Florida is a whole different beast. It's crazy. You're gonna love it. You will absolutely love it.
Well, I'm looking at Beast right now, so I'm already halfway there.
Listen, I'll bring your Crocs and your Florida man outfit. You'll be ready to go.
Oh yeah, you gotta rock the Crocs, man. You gotta rock them.
Okay,
absolutely.
You know, well, because you never know out there. It's crazy. That was one thing, Jared, that kind of blew me away. Like you guys just like randomly, it's hot, and all of a sudden, just boom, like thunderstorm.
Oh yeah, every day. And now I will say, when you're coming, it doesn't really start raining until summer every day. So like the spring is a good time, like winter and spring, you don't get a lot of rain and you don't have the humidity. So you're coming at a really good time. But yeah, if you're there in the summer, it'll rain every day, probably around 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah. That's what happened. We were there in July, end of July, early August. And like every day around that time, it would start to rain and it was humid as hell. Like even the windows had like that moisture on all the windows in our hotel and stuff.
It's already humid when you wake up, and then after it rains, even more humid. But the good thing about the rain is a lot of people will leave a park when it rains. So if you can ride it out, you kind of get a little bit of time where you kind of like see those wait times go down, whether you like Universal or Disney. So you can kind of use it to your advantage if you're willing to be a little wet.
Yeah, exactly. And also with the Animal Kingdom, because we did 2 days for Animal Kingdom. And one day we rode the safari with no rain. And one day we rode the safari with rain. And the animals are really active in the rain, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
You know? So, all right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you, everybody home. I want to thank you for watching, coming down below with all your thoughts on, Disney adults. Just keep that civil. and Villains Land, and a big shout out again to the Disney Food Blog, as well as Jack from DSNY. And until the next.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and become a member today. Mwah!